Good evening, everybody. I'd like to call this meeting to order. It's the regularly scheduled council meeting for January 26, 2022. And I'd like to start off by making note, it's with sadness that I announce that Warden Cunningham's father passed away this afternoon, later on this afternoon, and our wishes and prayers go out to Warden Cunningham. So I'll assume the chair in his absence. Item 1, playing of O Canada. Thank you, everybody.
Sorry, did anybody hear that? I just sang it to myself.
No,
Just
I
checking.
think we had some
Okay.
technical issues. So
Oh, well.
yeah, we did. I sang it quietly to ourselves. Yeah. Okay, so we will move on. Item 2, land acknowledgement. I would like to begin by acknowledging that we are on the traditional lands of the Acadia First Nation, part of Mi'kma'ki, the ancestral territory of the Mi'kmaq people. So approval of the agenda. Councillor Hilton.
Yeah, is this a motion, Victoria, to table that? Yeah, make a
Yes.
motion to table 7.5, the second reading of the Parkland Development Agreement to the February meeting to allow for to complete the public participation process.
Okay. Thank you very much, Councillor Hilton. We've got a seconder in Daniel. All those in favor signify by saying aye. All those opposed? Okay, motion carried. Thank you very much. Declarations of any conflict of interest.
Sorry, excuse me, Mr. Chair, we do still
Yes.
need a motion to approve the agenda as amended.
Oh, my apologies. Yeah, we have a mover for approval of the agenda. Moved by Councillor Hilton, second by Councillor Durkee. All those in favor signify by saying aye. All those opposed? Motion carried. Thank you. Item 4, declarations of any conflict of interest. Are there any declarations of conflict of interest? Seeing none, we'll move on to item 5, approval of the minutes. A mover for the approval of the minutes, December 16th, 2021, Committee of the Whole. Councillor Hilton, seconded by Councillor Cushing. All those in favor signify by saying aye. Opposed? Motion carried. The second set of minutes, December 16th, 2021, regular council. Do we have a mover for their approval? Councillor Allen, do we have a seconder? Councillor Durkee, all those in favor signify by saying aye. All those opposed? Motion carried. Okay, on to new business. On to old business. 6.1, request for decision, Hebron Dayton sewer study. So do we have some discussion? I'm sure people are just loading into their technology. And
So, Mr. Chair, the Director of Municipal Services, Abid Malik, is here with us tonight to present to council on that.
Oh, thank you so much. Mr. Malik, please present.
Thank you, Mr. Chair, and the members of the council. Good evening. This RFD is about Hebron-Dayton sewer system infiltration and inflow study award recommendation. As everybody knows, this is a system, sewer system of 10 kilometers long, and the water, the system goes to the town for treatment, and we pay to town based on the meter. In the past few years, we have seen that there was increase in metered volume, which does not jive with the new service connections which were given, and it looks like there is something inflow and infiltration is going on. That's why we want to do this study. What we did was we did a request for proposals. We got 3 proposals from 3 leading consulting companies, engineering companies in Halifax. They are Stantec Consulting, RV Anderson Associates, and Englobe Corporation. All of these companies submitted good proposals. They are all capable of doing a good job. But at the end of the day, the price was the main deciding factor in the evaluation process. So there, we are recommending the lowest compliant proposal from Stantec, that this study be awarded to Stantec for $72,800 approximately. And yeah, and if you have any questions, please let me know.
Okay, thank you very much for the excellent presentation. Questions from council or a motion put on the floor before conversation? Councillor Hilton.
Actually, can I ask one question before we go to a motion?
Certainly, absolutely.
How did it, like it's being brought back to council's old business, when did the conversation just originally happen, and how long has this been in the works? Just for my own.
Through the chair to either Mr. Malik or Sayo Brooks.
Sure. So
Yeah.
I can start a bit and you can fill in. So the issues with the Hebron-Dayton sewer have been discussed with council in the last 2 budget processes. And when we were discussing the rates that you set last May for your sewer rates, we talked about the need to identify this infiltration. And so this is that project actually coming to fruition that we talked about last spring.
Thank you, Sayo Brooks. Mr. Hilton, additional follow-up question or no?
Did we budget for it? We did? Okay, so I'll move that municipality and District of Yarmouth award the Hebron-Dayton sewer system infiltration and inflow study to Stantec Consulting Limited for the amount of $72,800 plus HST.
Okay, we have a mover. Do we have a seconder for the motion? Councillor Allen? All those in favor signify by saying aye. All those opposed? Motion carried. Thank you very much, Mr. Malik and council for moving the project forward.
Thank you very
Excellent
much,
work.
sir.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Thank you. We'll move on to item 7, new business. The recommendations from Committee of the Whole. Item 7.1.1, African Nova Scotia Affairs, support for municipal proclamation of African Heritage Month 2022. And Councillor Hurlbert.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Just let me flip my screen over here. I move that the municipality of District of Yarmouth approve that we organize an event to honor and reflect on African Heritage Month that will be held in February.
Thank you, Councillor Hilton. We've got a seconder and Councillor Durkee. All those in favor signify by saying aye. All those opposed?
I just want to make a comment that we do
Oh, yeah,
have that
certainly.
event. We do have that event organized for staff and council and some community representatives, I think the end of January.
Thank you. Perhaps I call the motion too quickly. Any comments before, any questions before we vote? Okay, there being none, I'll call the question. All those in favor signify by saying aye. Those opposed? Motion carried. Thank you, Council. 7.1.2, coldest night of the year, 2022 sponsorship. And it's likely just taking a little bit of time for people to load the, yeah, Councillor Hilton. Oh, Councillor Hilton, you're muted. Okay.
I'll move that the municipality and district of Yarmouth support the request from the coldest night of the year by donating the amount of $500 and direct the CAO to provide the opportunity for staff and council to participate on a team event for that evening.
Thank you, Councillor Hilton. We've got a seconder in Councillor Hurlbert. Are there any discussion on the matter? Okay,
Question.
Question called for. All those in favor signify by saying aye. All those opposed? Motion carried. Thank you, Council. Next item, 7.1.3, terms of reference for Diversity, Equity, Inclusion Advisory Committee. Councillor Hurlbert.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I make the motion that I have the wrong one. I make a motion that the municipality of District of Yarmouth approve the diversity, equity, and inclusion policy D-045-22 and the terms of reference as presented.
Councillor Hurlbert's moved. We've got a seconder in Councillor Durkee. Any discussion on the matter?
Question?
Seeing none, there's a question been called. All those in favor signify by saying aye. All those opposed? Motion carried. Thank you, Council. 7.1.4, health benefit for councillors. Yes, Councillor Durkee.
I'd like to move that the municipality of the District of Yarmouth staff research medical and dental benefits for council and report findings.
Okay, we've got a mover in Councillor Durkee. Do we have a seconder? We have a seconder in Councillor Hilton. You have additional conversation, question? Yes, Councillor Allen.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I just kind of like to know, I wasn't there for this conversation at committee of the whole, so I just am wondering about are we looking for some type of insurance policy? What exactly what are we looking for?
Yes, Councillor Durkee made the motion, so she could probably clarify. Councillor Durkee.
Yes, I had suggested that there are the people on council who do not have any medical, dental, or dental benefits. And I know there are other areas that do. And so I suggested that we ask staff to research that and come back with what it might possibly cost to see if it was valuable to our council members.
So to just to Councillor Allen's point, I think Councillor Allen's asking if the municipality would pay or co-pay with the councillor, or if it would be simply like a group plan that the councillors would fund entirely on their own. Just
We won't know the answer to that until a little bit of research is done.
okay. So it's open-ended. Yeah.
Yeah. So to Councillor Durkee's point, I guess that's what I was wondering is to what were we looking at different options, to see. Yeah. Okay. No, thanks, Patty. Thank you.
You're welcome.
Thank you for the clarity. Thank you for the question. Councillor Hilton.
Thank you, Mr. Chair, and through you to Daniel. I think at the committee of the whole, there was a a really good conversation about this, because we know that, for people watching, making that motion is a difficult thing when you're trying to do something that, spends municipal money but supports yourself. But I think it was important to know, some of us are healthcare employees or Tri-County Regional School Board employees, and we do have those benefits, and we really depend on those benefits. And when you have a job like this one that takes up a considerable amount of your time and weighs heavy on your health, I would never hold that. I would always support someone in the idea of getting health benefits, because these jobs do affect your mental health, do affect your physical health. And I think it's important that we at least look into what that looks like for the people that necessarily don't have that opportunity. Health benefits are important, and I would support that for anyone in our municipality if I had the chance. I use mine almost on a daily basis, so I'm totally in favor of at least exploring what these opportunities look like for all councillors and future councillors.
Okay, thank you, Councillor Hilton. And just to be clear, that the motion is to look into a variety of different paths and different payment options. And as such, it's information for council to consider at a later date. Consider as options at a later date. So that being said, I'll entertain any additional questions, and if not, we'll.
Lauren has.
Lauren, you want to speak to the matter? Sorry. Oh, he's got his hand up. Yes, he does. Yeah.
Yes, I do. Yeah. Thank you, Deputy Warden. I appreciate what Nick said and Patty's reasoning for such a thing, but as I spoke at the committee of the whole on this issue, I'm one of the people who do not have any type of health plan, but to be very frank with you, I really don't want the citizens of the municipality of Yarmouth paying for a health plan for me, and I'll certainly be voting against any type of motion to go forward with this. Thank you.
Okay, so just to be clear for everybody, this is not this motion is simply to have staff look into the options, and that may be having some of those options may include having a councillor pay into a group plan that would sort of be registered through the municipality for the entire cost of the plan. That may be one of the options. Other options may include partly funded or wholly funded by the municipality. So I'd be in favor of looking into it, but I'll reserve judgment on the other piece until later on. So is a councillor. Okay, any additional comments? Okay, all those in favor signify by saying aye. All those opposed? One vote against. 5-4. I'm doing the math quickly, and so the motion carries. Councillor Cushing, do you want your vote recorded?
Yes.
Okay, thank you. Okay, so the next item, hospitality policy H-068-22. Going to take a, oh yes, Councillor Durkee.
Thank you,
You have the
Mr.
floor.
Chair. Our hospitality policy needs to be reviewed at the end of January of every year. We reviewed it. Hopefully everybody's had a look at it, and I'll make the motion to recommend let me try that again. I'll make a motion to recommend we approve and there are a couple of amendments, to the hospitality policy H-068-22.
Okay, thank you for the moving. Councillor Allen, seconds.
Yes.
Any additional questions or comment before the vote's called? Seeing none, all those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
All those opposed? Motion carried. Thank you, Council.
I must apologize, Mr. Chair, that I do not have my green and red cards tonight, so it'll be,
That's okay. I've been guilty of the same offense from time to time, so we can certainly understand that for sure. Councilor Hurlbert, you've got your hand up.
I was just ready for the next item.
Okay. Well, then we'll call on Councilor Hurlbert to talk about parkland dedication subdivision files 9887 and 9888. Councilor Hurlbert.
Sure, I'll make two separate motions. Make a motion that the municipality accept the sum of money equivalent to 5% of the market value of the lot for parkland dedication for subdivision file 9887.
Okay, we've got a mover. Do we have a seconder on that item? Councilor Hilton? Any discussion? All those in favor signify by saying aye. All those opposed? Motion carried. Thank you. You have another separate motion to make, Councilor Hurlbert?
Sure. I make a motion that the municipality of District of Yarmouth accept the sum of money equivalent to 5% of the market value of the lot for parkland dedication for subdivision file number 9888.
Okay, thank you very much, Councilor Hurlbert. We've got a seconder in Councilor Durkee. Comment, question? All those in favor signify by saying aye. All those opposed? Motion carried. Thank you. Boundary review. And we're going to have our CAO speak to the boundary review, and I believe she has a presentation as well, a slideshow. Councilor Hilton, you have a question before we proceed? Oh, you're muted.
I said, I thought we were just going to move it. Did we not have the presentation at committee of the whole?
Yes, but I think I'll call on the CAO. There's some additional there's some additional material you'd like to share with us, correct?
Right. So I think at committee of the whole, we had a very high level conversation about the fact that this had to happen, and the requirement was to bring a briefing note to council this week. So that's kind of where we're at.
Okay, thank you. So proceed, CAO Brooks.
Okay. So thank you, Council. So as I shared at committee of the whole, the boundary review is a legislative requirement, and it's a fairly significant process. So the idea is just through this presentation, there is a lengthy briefing note provided to Council along with the recommendation from the committee of the whole, but I think it's important to go over the process formally in Council tonight, just to make sure that we provide the public with a review of what's required. So the background around a municipal boundary review, there is specific legislation and regulations that govern the process. So the Municipal Government Act requires that the governments do conduct a review of the respective polling districts and boundaries this year. And it's found in section 369 subsection 1, which stated that beginning in 1999 and then again in 2006 and then every 8th year thereafter, Council shall conduct a study of the number and boundaries of polling districts in the municipality, their fairness and reasonableness, and the number of councillors. And so that process happens under the purview of the Utility and Review Board. And in the Utility and Review Board Act, they have the rules for the boundary review that are required in the Municipal Government Act. So Section 12 of the Municipal Government Act rules under the Utility and Review Board Act stipulates the process and rules of procedure as well as decision metrics to be used by the board in hearing a municipality's application under the review. Detailed instructions with respect to decisions of council, public consultation, filing of documents, and hearing procedures are included in Section 12 of the MGA rules under the UARB Act. So the last time we did a review was in 2014. And the review was conducted collaboratively by the planning staff and the CAO's office. And so council determined and consulted on maintaining the size and structure of council Council consulted on minor changes to 2 of the polling districts, and the Utility and Review Board accepted the district's submission, which included a confirmation that the size and composition of council would be 7 with a warden system, and that there were some amendments to districts 1 and 2 to clarify polling districts for residents on instances relating to private roads to have the district align with the closest public road. So we just had we had some, I think there were 5 occurrences where there were some irregularities for residents on private roads, and there was some confusion. So we worked to try to clean that up. So what's the process for this? Generally speaking, you know, the process is that we complete the review, we submit an application by December of this year to the UARB. There's a hearing with the UARB. The board, the UARB board, will make a decision, and if for some reason council's not happy with the UARB's decision, I do think that there is an appeal process. So the board, the Utility and Review Board, directs that the review needs to be done in 2 phases. So the first phase is for council to determine the number of districts and councilors. And then from there, you determine the boundaries for the proposed districts. And each of those phases have to include a public consultation. Now, I should state that in 2014, the phases were done concurrently, not consecutively. Council had a sense of which way they wanted to go. And so we consulted on both the size and composition of council as well as the districts at the same time. So the size of council, key considerations should be the desired style of council, your governance structure, and a determination that leads to an effective and efficient number of councilors for the District of Yarmouth. Under district boundaries, once the appropriate number of polling districts are determined, then the second phase of the process is that of distributing and delineating the polling districts, and that really requires a balance between the population and the geographic size. And the Utility and Review Board has established a tolerance of variances. So plus or minus 10% in terms of population for the average number of electors per polling districts. There is a consideration for a greater variance of up to 25% plus or minus in special circumstances if a really strong case can be made for certain factors like communities of interest and geography. And then what happens is if a municipality makes a submission for a situation where you're asking for approval of a variance that is above 10%, there are higher demonstration standards or higher standards required to defend that submission to the board. So in the district boundaries, the board expects the municipalities to use census data, elector lists, property assessment information, building permit data, and so on when you're considering the appropriate boundaries. And building permit data should be used to justify variations in voter parity where there's significant growth has occurred or is expected to occur. So if you see something that doesn't line up between your census information, your voters list, and your development stats, then that tells you there's an anomaly going on, and you need to speak to that for sure. I am aware of a situation where in HRM there was a submission to the UARB because it was known to the Halifax Regional Municipal Council that there was going to be significant growth in the Clayton Park area. And so when they did a boundary review at that time, they provided for the anticipated growth in that community when they set out their polling district. So that's an example of what I'm talking about. So what will happen is if council ratifies the committee of the whole recommendation this evening, staff will complete an initial analysis of the demographic data for the existing polling districts derived from the final list of electors in the 2020 election. We'll use the census data that is coming down the line as we speak, which was collected last year. We'll look at specific growth areas such as Arcadia, Hebron, Dayton, Port Maitland, as well as other metrics inside the development office and combine those pieces. And then based on direction from the Utility and Review Board in past decisions, we need to focus strongly on any variations and comparable voting parity between districts. So the 2020 final list of electors is an important tool because it does identify the current voting parity among the districts. An election was not held for the District of Yarmouth in District 1 in 2020, and so the census data will be used as a proxy for those electors, and additional information will come alongside of that to support recommendations to council and eventually your application to UARB. So there are some things that you need to take into consideration in the process. And I know at the committee, the whole meeting, we had a very brief conversation, but council does actually need to make a formal decision. Under section 12, subsection 8 of the Municipal Government Act, council can switch to a mayor system of leadership style from a warden system. In the 2014 polling district reviews, council did decide and consult with the public to keep the warden system. So council had actually said, you know, we think our style is the right style for our community, and so you consulted, not you, but council consulted on that supposition or that thought. If for some reason through this process council decides that they want to consult on keeping everything the same in terms of your size and your structure, if for some reason down the road there's an appetite to look at a mayor system, council has until 9 months prior to the next election to go down that road and make that decision. So if you decide not to look into the mayor system through this process, it doesn't mean that you can't. You can down the road. It is important for council to know and understand that once a district municipality or a rural municipality in Nova Scotia moves from a warden system to a mayor system, it cannot go back. And I think just for the record, I'll say, although I know council is very much aware, the major difference between a warden system and a mayor system is that the mayor is elected at large by all of the electors in the municipality, and a warden is elected from amongst the peers on council. What happens when there's a mayor system is that the municipality is divided into the number of polling districts that represent council less the mayor. So if a municipality had 12 councillors and a mayor, there would be 12 polling districts, and then the mayor would be elected at large. So what are the next steps? The game plan is, of course, subsequent to an approval this evening, is for me to begin working with our municipal planner and other staff in completing the technical work for council to prepare its submission to the UARB. We'll recommend a public engagement process to council for approval. In 2014, there were some conversations with some individuals amongst the staff, and then what we did to consult the public was there was just an online survey. Council received written submissions, and there was a public meeting, one public meeting. If for some reason COVID restricts in-person meetings beyond April, it will be recommended to council that we go to online events. And you know, maybe given what we heard tonight from some residents on Park Drive, maybe some intentional direct mail or a writing program, but we'll play that one by ear. Following the proposed schedule should enable the municipality to submit its proposal to the Nova Scotia Utility and Review Board prior to the end of the year. So the timeline looks kind of like this. Over the course of the winter and the spring, we're going to do a lot of the background work and receive some direction from council and start drafting what we think the submission is going to look like. There needs to be, as I said, 2 phases of public consultation. Now, it looks like they're happening consecutively in this Gantt chart. But again, if council knows what style of governance it wants to propose to the residents, we can consult concurrently and just bring that down to one consultation. After the consultations, we take a look at what we heard and we compare that against kind of the draft documents and the way council and staff think we want to move. And council prepares its final proposal. It comes in a public meeting for approval. It gets submitted by staff to the UARB. We'll receive notice of a schedule of a hearing. After the hearing, we'll wait on the decision from the UARB and move on from there. So recommendation and decision required from council. So at the committee, the whole motion was made by the deputy warden and seconded by Councillor Cushing to recommend that council direct the CAO to undertake the boundary review following the process as required by the UARB, which is what we just went over this evening. It is further required that council provide direction with respect to investigations regarding the size and structure of council. Will a mayor system be investigated? That doesn't have to be decided tonight, but it should be decided as soon as reasonably possible because it does affect the background research that we will be doing. And that, Mr. Chair, is the end of that presentation.
Okay, so council, we've got some feedback, do we? No, it's okay now. So, okay, council, excellent presentation. Thank you, CEO Brooks. And we've got, some advice from our CEO in terms of maybe talking about the mayor warden situation, maybe a bit more later on at another meeting. So, but we do have the recommendation from the committee of the whole to move forward. So, Councillor Allen, you have a question, or you'd like to make a motion? Chair recognizes Councillor Allen. Oh, you're muted.
Yeah, I know. I'm going to make a motion. I'm just trying to find the motion that I want to make. I had it right here in front of me. If you can just
No
bear
worries.
with me for 1 second. Yeah, I would like to make a motion to direct the CAO to undertake the boundary review following the process required by the Utility and Review Board.
Thank you, Councillor Allen. And Councillor Hilton? Second? Okay, very good. We've got a mover and a second, or any additional conversation about the issue on the floor? Yes, Councillor Hilton.
So that, that's one part of it. And we know that our warden has weighed in on these, the mayor versus warden system and him not being here tonight. I'm not sure if we should wait for him to have his say, or I personally feel that we should kind of continue as is with the 7 districts, the warden system as is, knowing that we're having other conversations about amalgamation or consolidation. And I just really don't see the point in switching at this point. But if they're, if we don't have that same consensus, then maybe waiting for John would be,
Okay, so what I can comment on as chair, I think it's wise to vote on the first part, the motion that's on the floor, and then we can have a conversation. If a councillor wants to bring the motion to keep things as they are this evening, that's totally permissible, or we can wait until another meeting. It's the will of council and individual councillors, so to make those motions. So perhaps as chair, I'll say that we can let's deal with this first item, the recommendation from committee of the whole, and then if somebody wishes to make an additional motion, that's entirely okay as well.
Question.
Is that okay, Councillor Hilton?
Yeah.
Do we have a seconder on the motion? Just
I'll second it.
okay, Councillor Hilton seconds. Any additional conversation on the motion on the floor?
I called the question.
Oh, question's been called. Okay, thank you, Patty. All those in favor signify by saying aye. All those opposed? Motion carried. So to Councillor Hilton's comments, is there anybody that wants to make an additional motion? Patty Durkee, Councillor Durkee.
Thank you, Mr.
You
Chair.
have the floor.
I think I feel that we should have a whole conversation about the warden system versus the mayoral system before we vote on or make a motion to vote on one way or the other.
Okay, thank you for the comment. So what I'll ask council is there a motion to be put on the floor this evening, or will we move to the next agenda item?
Oh.
Yes, Councillor Hilton, yeah.
So through you to Victoria, when's the deadline for this? It was quite soon, was it not?
Yeah, the deadline is December, but there's quite a bit of legwork that I need to do with the staff. If you tabled this till even committee of the whole, which is 14, 20 days away, that's not going to have a material impact on the process.
Okay, so out of, respect for the people that aren't here, I'll make the motion to table that discussion. I don't even know if we need a motion because there's no motion on the table, but
Yeah, Counselor, we wouldn't need a motion because there's nothing there, so to table. Yeah, correct. Okay, everybody, I think it's good to move on to the next item. Recommendations from PAC 7.2, 7.2.1 is the PAC motion. The other two items are my understandings for information, and I'm sure council's reviewed those. So I'll look to Sale Brooks to talk about 7.2.1, the PAC motion.
Right, so thank you, Mr. Chair. So the Planning Advisory Committee completed an extensive learning plan on a possible amendment to the municipal planning strategy. Caroline Robertson filed a report to the PAC along with a recommendation. The PAC received the report and by way of motion is forwarding it to council with no recommendation.
Thank you, CO Brooks. Are there additional comments about this or a motion that anybody would like to make this time? Okay, there being none, I would like to bring forward a motion for council's consideration. And given that staff certainly did indicate that they wanted some direction, they thought that there should be some change as per the PAC proceedings. And many people in the community have asked for clarity around this. I'll move that the municipality district of Yarmouth maintain the current status of the LUB and MPS as it applies to aquaculture, and this would give some certainty to the issue, and it again would not allow the flow of water into or out of a land-based aquaculture operation, either in an aquatic environment or a marine environment. So that's my motion. I will say that I won't be voting in favor of my motion, but I think that for clarity's sake, council does need to consider the issue. So I'll move that. That's yes, Councillor Hilton. Second. Councillor Hilton seconds. Councillor Hurlbert.
I have a question just about process, and I just want to make sure that this is fine. And I know that normally you're not the chair and the warden is the chair. As the chair, I just maybe through you to CA Brooks, just so we have everything clean and neat and tidy. Is the chair allowed to make a motion while he or she retains the seat of chair? And I'm not saying you should or shouldn't. I just want to make sure it's clean down the road.
Yeah, it's not common. Yeah, it's not common, Councillor Hurlbert, but it is permissible.
Okay, thank you.
Councillor Allen.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. So just a couple comments. In your motion, you mentioned about the flow. That you want to maintain the current land use bylaw, but I don't believe flow is actually mentioned in our land use bylaw at this time. Is it? The flow is, or closed containment is the flow actually mentioned in
the word flow is not used.
Okay, so in reading some of the materials that we received, I see there's different interpretations of the closed containment. So just to make sure that I understand the motion, because you want the land use bylaw to stay the same for now, but you mentioned the flow, and flow is not in there. So is there a little conflict there in your motion is all I'm trying to get at. I want to make sure the wording is proper. And is this a permanent thing, or are we still investigating? I mean, me as a counselor, I don't sit on PAC. I know there was some public hearings and there was some information sessions, and I haven't had a chance to take them all in. So I would definitely like to be able to review a few more of them. But as for right now, if this is a motion going through, I mean, I will be voting in favor of keeping the land use bylaw. But is this the end of this process, I guess that's my question to
So
Madam
through
CEO.
the chair to Ms. Brooks, and I will, just before I call on Ms. Brooks, I'll make the statement that typically I would not have been in the chair this evening, but the business was at hand tonight, so it was appropriate that I made the motion. That's the reason. Ms. Brooks.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. So through you to Councillor Allen. The planning documents of a municipality can always be reviewed and amended at the pleasure of council. So there is an example, and I know normally material comes to council by way of the marketplace up through the Planning Advisory Committee. That's normally how it happens. There are some instances where maybe something in provincial or federal legislation require us to take a look at a policy or regulation, and we bring something up through. It is not common for council to make a policy decision outside of a comprehensive review and send it to the PAC and have them deal with the technical work and bring the technical language back up. However, there is an example, and it's in the aquaculture industry, where we actually did do that. So there was an application a number of years ago for Elvers, and the location where the proposed development was going to happen wasn't ideally situated. However, council did want to provide for the industry, and so they gave the Planning Advisory Committee instructions on doing the technical work to provide for that activity in the Hebron Business Park. So if a decision is made tonight to hold the language the way it is not permanent, Councillor Allen. If council, upon review and reflection, does want to do something different, it can give the PAC that mandate to make something so in the planning documents that council wants.
Thank you, Sarah Brooks. Is there a follow-up, Councillor Allen?
So in your wording, I'm just worried about the wording of because you're mentioning the flow in your motion. I'm just.
So I can speak to that. I did that just to clarify, because there was some question about what closed containment meant, and this clarifies it in terms of it keeps the language the same in the MPS, in the land use bylaw, but it does clarify what we mean by closed containment. And I think that's what many people have believed it means, is that water would not flow in or out of a system, even if it's filtered.
Okay.
That's my clarity. So they are separate issues. So the thing would remain the same, but that would bring clarity to the issue. I think, unfortunately, it would also have the effect of practically eliminating any ability for the aquaculture industry to function in the municipality district of Yarmouth, because obviously aqua means water, and any farming that's done on land would almost certainly, with maybe very, very few exceptions, require water to be pumped in and out of either an aquatic or a marine environment. So I guess really that brings us full circle to the question at hand. Do we want to have any reasonable hope of an aquaculture industry in the municipality district of Yarmouth or not? So it's an important vote, and I'll be voting against the motion, but staff does need clarity.
So again, for my clarity, and I don't want to, I know I keep repeating it. Like you yourself, Councillor Cunningham, made a motion and you put in the flow part. There's nothing in our LUB that mentions the flow part. So I guess what I'm trying to say is, I think our policy may need to be looked at, and maybe that, or land use LUB may need to be looked at. And if that's what we want put in there, then it should be put in there. But we can't actually say that that's what it is right now, because it's not in there as a definition.
So you're bringing a good question. So maybe to address that, I'll withdraw the portion of the flow and just keep the motion simply to maintain the MPS in the land use bylaw as it is. But having said that, that doesn't negate my comment that I believe this will practically, voting in favor of this motion will practically eliminate the ability for anybody to operate land-based aquaculture in the municipality district of Yarmouth, because we all know whether it's a fish hatchery, or whether it's salmon, or whether it is would be cohogs or clams or whatever they would farm on land. They would want to use water and return water to the to a marine or aquatic environment. So in almost all instances, I mean, there was Sustainable Blue, and I don't know that much, but it's just one operation of many operating in Nova Scotia. So again, in my view, from what I've heard, from what I've learned, practically it would eliminate any hope of the industry developing in municipality of Yarmouth. But again, that's for council to decide.
So I don't mean to take up too much time.
No.
One more question. So once this vote is done, if I review the presentations that were brought to PAC for my own information, am I able to bring this back to council to have it added again? Can we look at this at any time, Madam CAO?
Yep,
Through,
so,
yes.
yep, thank you, Mr. Chair. Yep, so your council procedural policy gives each member of council the right to nominate agenda items through my office or through the warden's office. And so if anybody takes a look at this again and they feel like it, they need to come back to it, then that can always happen. Yes,
Okay.
that's exactly what you're here to do, is to govern. Yep.
Okay, thank you.
Yes, Councillor Elton.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. And we know that this has been a long process, and ending in the PAC vote to not recommend removing the word closed containment, and keeping the words, to control all inputs and outputs. And we know, I'm very happy. The motion you originally made, controlling the flow of outward and inward water, is actually, that was a great motion to. I'm confused. I'm a little confused. We know that the word closed containment does have some questions behind it. We know we want to control the flow of all inputs and out, not all, but anything in and out of our water sources. We also know that there was discussions around, shellfish, seagrass, those types of aquaculture, that filter water, not necessarily add anything to the water. So again, leaving the words as is, doesn't that still leave an opening, knowing that closed containment could have meant exactly what the application that triggered this was for, maybe fit in that, but yet wouldn't qualify because it doesn't control all inputs or outputs, or depending how you look at that. I liked your original motion to control the flow of water in and out. That still left something on the table for recirculating systems, does it not?
No. I'm just purely recirculating. It's not recirculating. It would just be a seawater that they make up from fresh water, probably.
We still know that we still have questions about what Sustainable Blue is. They claim to be that. That's what we wanted. But at the same time, we don't want to limit, oyster farms, seagrass farms, all those other things. At what point, like, I found it when we were talking about development agreements prior to, Caroline went through how a development agreement is made, that she sits down with the proponent and does that. Did that happen here? Is that what triggered this? Did we sit down with, say, Boreal to create that application? When do we sit down with council to say, this is what we want, and this is what we want our bylaws or LUB to look like? Because I think it was clear that the community still wants to control what happens to its environment and what happens within its communities, but they still want to diversify industry, but not at the risk of our oceans or coastline. So I liked the fact that you weren't going to take any water from any water source in Yarmouth County, but I understand that by saying that you're limiting, no aquaculture anywhere. And if that's the only motion on the table, then that's the one I'm going to vote for.
Okay, CO Brooks, perhaps you can answer some of those questions. or provide some comment?
So the purpose of the learning plan was to understand what was problematic about our language, for not just for the applicant, which I do have a comment about the applicant. And what we learned is that our language, to Councillor Allen's point, it says closed containment. Now, closed containment is contextualized in other parts of the language in your municipal planning strategy. And it's clear in the language and the vision, and Caroline, please jump in and help me here. It's clear in the language and in the vision, in the global context of your municipal planning strategy, that protecting the clean water is important. And there is a preamble to this section in the municipal planning strategy that sets this framework for closed containment, that the idea was that not so much that you can't bring water from a source in the municipality, but that it's all about the discharge. It's all about the discharge. And so what we found in the learning plan was that because we say closed containment and we talk about control, our planner and our development officer interpreted the application that triggered this conversation based on the holistic understanding of the policies in the MPS to determine that that application did not meet your intention on closed containment and controlling inputs and outputs. And so my understanding of the motion on the floor is that the development officer and the planner and myself would continue to interpret applications within the context of the global language in your MPS around protecting clean water. And I will add, if this motion passes, that we likely should have a motion to deny the application for the amendment.
Correct. Okay, so Councillor Durkee.
Thank you, Mr. Chair, and thank you, CAO Brooks. I'm feeling about this that we do need to have more discussion about aquaculture throughout our MPS review. And we are under that process. And I think in that MPS review, we need to make those decisions as to what specific kinds of systems would we be willing to accept, and where in our municipality we want those to occur. So the meaning of closed containment, according to the Canadian government, is that fish stay in tanks. And so I think there's still some controversy to be had in that, because it doesn't really address the open flow. And I believe that the biggest concern for us is not where industry gets water for their system, but again, as Councillor Brooks has stated, where that water goes. And we know that in a RAS system, that water gets recirculated and once it's filled, I mean, it gets recirculated and put back in. And I also know from research from the people who spoke that type of industry is working and is safe for environment. And I also want to add that in our MPS, we pay particular attention to the fact that, we don't want to hurt the environment in any way. And we don't want to take any risks for that. And that would be a chance of, if we had open flow, effluent into either lakes or oceans, then some other industries would be at risk. So I would be in agreement at this time to leave our closed containment in our land use bylaw, and that we investigate further in our MPS review the types of systems that we are willing to have in Yarmouth County and the specific locations where that would work. Thank you.
CEO Brooks, I see another couple councillors are waiting and you're in the queue, but I'll give you an opportunity to respond.
It wasn't so much to respond, Mr. Chair, but it was just, and with complete
For comment,
respect, yeah, just with complete respect. So the application from the developer for this particular project was not proposing to have open flow effluent go back into the waters. And is with complete respect, I point that out. There would be flow back into the waters, but it was not open flow effluent. There were requirements for treatment and capturing waste and all those things. So I wouldn't want the public to think in any way, shape, or form that something was happening, that it was just a, complete and total, no treatment, no control going back into the waters, because that at all was not the case. And I do feel a moral responsibility to point that out.
Thank you.
May I respond, please?
Certainly, yes, yeah.
Thank you. No, there was no intention of it. Effluent is definitely going out, and I wasn't addressing the specific applicant at this point. I'm just saying in general, even though water's treated, and that was, I know that the applicant does have forms of treatment. So my thoughts is, I just don't want to see water flowing back into the ocean treated or not treated. So, and I know that the applicant was treating the water, but again, open flow is just, to me, is going out into the ocean.
Okay, so Councillor Hurlbert.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I just want to thank PAC staff and the public for getting us to the point that we are at tonight, and I will be voting in favor of the motion, keeping the language as it is. We know that we are, the PAC and the council are going through extensive review of our land use bylaw and municipal planning strategy with Upland, and I feel strongly that we need some clear guidance from them and to know where in our municipality do we want and what do we want. We've gotten to this point because there was an application, but I feel like we put all of that in front of what we don't really know at this point what we want. And I think that, it's incumbent upon us and PAC going through this review to use this process to define what we want. It doesn't mean that we are completely closed, we're not open for business to aquaculture. We just need, as a municipality, to know where we want it, when we want it, and how we want it. Thank you.
Councillor Allen.
Thank you, Mr. Chair, and thank you, Sherry, because you said, I think what you were saying, you said a little more eloquently than I did. To Councillor Hilton's point, I was just pointing out that the open flow wasn't already in. The motion was to keep the LUB MPS the same. So open flow wasn't actually talked about in that. So I was just trying to point that out, that it wasn't. I will be voting in favor of this motion. I do, however, agree with Councillor Hurlbert and Councillor Durkee that we do need to review these. We need to have more, I shouldn't say more, but clear ideas of what we want and where they should be acceptable. PAC never made a recommendation, and I guess I've been waiting for it to come to council. I'm glad it's here. I do believe we need to be looking at our land use bylaws. I think we have to look at them better than, they've got to be reworked and reworded. I do not want to be closed for business. I agree with Councillor Hurlbert again. I think we should be open for business. Councillor Durkee, same thing. We should be open for business, but we have a thriving fishing industry, many different types of fishing industries, I should say, along our coastline. And we've got to be aware of them. We've got to definitely take care of them, so I will be voting in favor of this motion to keep it as it is. I just think that we should be going back to the drawing board to look at it, because just my opinion and my personal interpretation of closed containment is muddy. I don't know if that's the right word to use. I just feel like it's muddy. And I want to make sure that what we have in there and written down is clear. I don't want someone to come in and use it on a technicality. I want to make sure that we know we have something to stand behind when we make these decisions. And the sooner we can do that, the better. you know, so that is, that's really what I'm trying to get across. I know I don't speak as clearly as some of you. I'm sorry about that, but yeah, that's all I was trying to get across. I don't want to make the waters any muddier than they are. And I didn't feel that your motion with adding in the open flow and closed flow and saying that you want to keep the bylaw the same where it wasn't already in there. I didn't feel that was going to be clear.
And that's okay. And just for clarity's sake, is that okay with the seconder?
I think I was.
Believe you were the seconder, Councillor Hilton?
Yeah.
Yeah. That-
I think I like the fact that you use the word flow. That's the worst part. Because like you said, I think the word closed containment has questions, could be maybe argued in a court of law. I'm not sure. It'd be nice to have a legal opinion on that.
And so I'll turn, sorry, and my apologies, C.O. Brooks, and I'll come back to you, Councillor Hilton.
Oh, I have a comment that might help Councillor Hilton. So Councillor
Yeah.
Hilton, I was going to say, if the motion had passed in the exact way it was originally worded, technically that's adding language to the NPS that's not there, and that's an amendment to the NPS.
Yeah.
So I was going to raise that and seek clarification. I don't know if that helps you, Councillor Hilton, in thinking about whether or not you're agreeable to the friendly amendment.
So what I'm looking for is we know that what triggered this was an application to use ocean water, in a large amount of ocean water and water from any source at that point in Yarmouth County. We know that there's no appetite in the community to do that at this present time. I wasn't questioning Daniel. I knew where you were going. I think you were spot on. The wording is really important here. I don't want to leave the door open for someone to do exactly what we know we're not trying to do right here. And that's when you use the word flow in and out, it's similar to what's there now talks about containing all inputs and outputs. By voting in favor of this, I want to know if, status quo is and will be, held up if there's any argument. Can anyone question the words all inputs and outputs and closed containment? Or are we good with maintaining status quo at the present time by voting in favor of this?
So I think I'll start first and I'll go to Ms. Brooks. So Ms. Brooks has accurately pointed out, and when I made the motion, I didn't consider that it provides some clarity, but really it's not part of the process here at council. That would have to go back to PAC and be subject to all the public input and that type of thing if we're going to change it. I guess I was sort of putting my own interpretation perhaps on it, but I think that was probably the wrong thing to do. So what I'd appreciate you doing is just just moving forward with the motion without the language of water flow, because I don't think we can do that.
So if the motion is to keep the wording as is, and the intent behind the wording, as we interpret it now, then I'll gladly second that.
Yeah. Okay. Thank you. So that brings clarity, Councillor. C.O. Brooks.
So I was just going to confirm, Mr. Chair, through you to council, that in effect, if the motion to leave the wording as is remains the same, it is the interpretation of the language that, prompted our planner and our development officer to indicate to the proponent that an amendment would be required. So, we would continue to interpret it in that way, which does signify to council that we are all on the same page with respect to your intent.
Okay. Thank you, C.O. Brooks. Councillor, question.
Thank you, Deputy Warden. I wasn't going to say much about this. My understanding was the PAC had no recommendation to bring forward. We needed a motion to keep the wording as it is, closed containment, which is very straightforward. As it stands right now, we will be doing a review of our land use bylaws and whatnot. So that's definitely will come up. And we certainly know how important the sea harvesters are, no matter what time of species that they're harvesting, is very, very important. And I think we're just debating something here that leave it as it is. Then when we do a review, then we can iron out all this. I think we're talking the talk. Why don't we just do what we have to do? Let's keep it as it is. When we do a review, we take all the considerations in, then we make a recommendation. Thank you.
Thank you. Ms. Roberts. Sorry, Ms. Robertson. Yes.
I just wanted to add in, so Roger and I, it's very clear what council's thoughts are on this issue and how you'd like us to move forward with enforcing the municipal planning strategy and land use bylaw. That being said, there is still the possibility that there is that there could be some misunderstanding around the language. And if an applicant did come forward and they were refused, then there is a possibility that they could appeal any decisions that were made. I mean, we've gone through this process. We have that documentation to show how we've come to our conclusion and what council's intention is. But I do just want to put that out there that an applicant could argue against our decision based on the language.
Thank you. Thank you, Ms. Robertson. Any additional comment? Okay, so I do have an additional comment. What I will say is I do disagree with some of what's been said here tonight. I chaired the PAC and attended the meetings and heard from all of the experts in the area. And on balance, what I heard is that, if any aquaculture proponent comes forward, doesn't matter if it's a salmon farm, if it's a seaweed operation, if it's a mussel grower that wants to do it on land, if it's a fish hatchery, they will require, in almost all instances, the ability to release some water back into the environment. So logically, that follows. And Sustainable Lou is just one. That's the only one I know of that's almost, maybe, I'm not totally sure, doesn't release any water back into the marine environment. But having said that, we talked about the one issue, but tonight we talked about Boreal some, but tonight we're deciding the fate of the entire aquaculture industry, not just one proponent, all of them. And practically speaking, what I heard is that if this motion carries forward, there'll be no aquaculture development, or almost none, practically none, in the municipality of District of Yarmouth until such time as we change things. And I think really that's why staff came to us for the change. But again, I do think that we need to bring some clarity to the issue. I think this motion will bring some clarity. But again, I would disagree that we're going to, when we pass, if this motion carries, I would disagree that we'll have applicants come forward to do aquaculture, because I can't imagine somebody wants to would do aquaculture, or can't imagine of too many people rather that would do aquaculture in our municipality without being able to return some water to a marine or aquatic environment. So that's the practical side of it. That's what I heard, and those are my comments, and I'll stand by them. And having said that, I'm neither for nor against the Boreal proposal, because it did in fact not come specifically to council for approval, so we couldn't hear it at all. So that will be the same for any anybody that wants to return any water to the marine or aquatic environment. So those are my comments, and I think we have to be very, very careful about not allowing commercial development to take place in the municipality district of Yarmouth, or putting up too many barriers or entire barriers that are almost immovable. So in any event, maybe we'll change things in the future, but until then, I don't think there'll be much in terms of agriculture development in the municipality of Yarmouth. So those are my comments. So any further comment, or do you want to vote on the issue?
Question.
Question being called for. All those in favor signify by saying aye. All those opposed? Motion carried. Thank you. Yes, Ms. Brooks.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. So I just, before we move on, now that the vote is done, I do want to share with you that I did receive an email from Upland. Ian and Juniper and Ryan, who are the consultants working with us on the review of the MPS and the LUB, and they are preparing the What We Heard report, which is the result of the first phase of public consultations on planning and development in the municipality. And I can tell you that you're going to be talking about aquaculture a lot. So rest assured that the community that you serve and the team, the consulting team, the staff team, we know we've got to come back to this a little bit. So I know a couple of the councillors mentioned during the discussion on the motion, they felt strongly that had to happen, and I just want to assure you that is going to happen.
Okay, thank you, CEO Brooks, and thank you, Council. Good conversation. Thank you. Just looking for the next item.
Mr. Chair, sorry, we probably do need that follow-up motion to deny the application by Boreal to amend the MPF.
Oh, yes. Okay, so Councillor Allen, do you want to make that motion, or do you have another comment?
No, I'd like to make the motion that staff, and I'm not sure how you pass on to Boreal that their application to amend the MPS and LUB has been denied.
Okay, thank you very much, Councillor Allen. We've got a mover. Do we have a seconder? Got a seconder in Councillor Hilton. We got a mover and a seconder. All those in favor signify by saying aye. Sorry, is it okay? Aye. All those in favor? Sorry. Motion carried. Okay. Next item is recommendations from Audit Committee. 7.3.1, appointment of municipal auditor. You want to speak to that item?
I can briefly, Mr. Chair, if you'd like me to.
Please.
Yep. So the municipality of Yarmouth was in a contract situation with Grant Thornton to provide audit services, and the contract expired during the pandemic. So staff went ahead and we performed a procurement process. Now, municipal audits are a very special service provided to municipal government in Nova Scotia. Not just any accounting firm can do that. So under our procurement policy, the procurement regulations in Nova Scotia, we were in a position where we could invite proposals from qualified accounting firms for this service. So in the supporting documentation, you will read that we did approach 3 firms. 2 firms declined to provide a proposal. But having said that, the one proposal that's before you tonight, recommended for approval by the audit committee, it is with the existing vendor, and the pricing is very much in line with continuing on basically with cost of living increments moving forward. And myself and the director of finance both have a high level of confidence and trust with Grant Thornton, and clearly we recommended to the audit committee to move in this direction.
Thank you, CEO Brooks. Councillor Hilton.
Yeah, I'll make a motion that the municipality and district of Yarmouth continue the relationship and accept the proposed agreement dated December 21st, 2021 with Grant Thornton for their auditing services as presented by the audit committee.
Okay, thank you, Councillor. Do we have a seconder? Councillor Cushing, additional conversation? All those in favor signify by saying aye. All those opposed? Motion carried. Thank you, Council. Okay, and first reading of sewer bylaw S-084-22. That's item 7.4. Let's give everybody a second for it to load. And CO Brooks, you want to talk just briefly about that as an intro?
Sure, Mr. Chair. So at the committee of the whole, I went through and we had some other staff with us. We went through in detail the revisions to the sewer bylaw, which were designed to provide for developments in terms of building developments in the municipality that hadn't been provided for, as well as providing clarity around the types of services that were included in this bylaw. And so you have before you a recommendation from committee of the whole to make a motion tonight to approve first reading on the bylaw.
Thank you, CO Brooks. Do we have a mover for that motion? Councillor Durkee? Seconded
Sure.
by Councillor Allen, or? That's fine?
Mhm.
Yep.
Okay. Motion moved and seconded. All those in favor signify by saying aye. All those opposed? Motion carried unanimously. Thank you. 7.5, okay, this one's been removed from the agenda. 7.5, second reading. That's going to take place at February's regular council meeting. CO's report. It's been circulated. Is there some comment or question from the CO's report? 7.6. Yes, Councillor Over. You have the
Thank
floor.
you. Thank you, Mr. Chair. I just want to say, if we read through this and the public read through this, you would see how busy we are. We're not sitting on our behinds, twiddling our thumbs. It's, full steam ahead. Just through you to the CAO Brooks, is there anything in the reporting in the budget, reporting of the budget process where you see we're over, under by any significant amount? And can you speak to any of those and how maybe we can remedy them?
Yep. So, when I provide financial statements during the fiscal year, there's going to be a little bit of over and under. So for a couple of reasons. Number one, there are sometimes journal entries required. So between the accounts payable system and when we finalize our accounting at the end of the year, sometimes expenses get recorded in the wrong account. So there's some moving. So what we like to do is when we're tracking along with our financial plan, we like to make sure that we look for those anomalies. We like to make sure that within the categories of spending, we're on track. And then the other thing is on the revenue side of things, not all revenues come in the same interval monthly. So for example, most of our tax revenue is in by September. But there are some things like some of our equalization grants or transfers from other governments that come in later. Sometimes some of the revenue that we get, for example, from Nova Scotia Power, it doesn't necessarily come in all the time. And the other thing I will point out is, anybody who took a look at the financial statements will see that we have a significant surplus, over $400,000 right now. But there are transfers to savings that you have asked for that we haven't done yet. And there are lots of expenses to happen. We have RCMP contributions to make, education contributions to make. So, generally speaking, we're where we expected to be, but there is sometimes that over under during the course of the year.
Perfect. Thank you. I appreciate that because I wouldn't want the public to look at that and think we have all, a lot of money to, going into the end of the fiscal year. So I appreciate that. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you, everybody. Any additional comments about the CO's report or questions from council? Okay, there being no additional question. Oh, yes, Councillor Allen.
I was just going to make a motion that we accept the CAO's report as circulated.
Okay, thank you very much, Councillor. Seconder from Councillor Cushing. All those in favor signify by saying aye. Those opposed? Motion carried. Thank you, Council. Next item is correspondence for action 8.1.1 Meadowfields Community School Playground Replacement Project. And I'll look to the CAO to provide a little commentary, but they're essentially looking for a letter of support.
That's right, Mr. Chair. So tonight, the letter of support is really around a philosophical support. There will be a grant application coming to you for a financial request, but this letter is going to help fill out applications for other funding sources. So tonight, the request would be basically around supporting the project and its importance to our community.
Thank you, CAO. Councillor Hilton, you have a question or?
No, I'll make the motion that we provide Meadowfields and the Vice Principal, Kevin Gobian, with a letter of support in the replacement of.
Okay, Councillor Hilton moves. We've got a seconder in Councillor Gerke.
Mhm.
Conversation, additional questions? Okay, all those in favor signify by, oh, Councillor Hilton. Sorry. Oh, okay. All those in favor signify by saying aye. All those opposed? Motion carried. Thank you, everybody. We have a number of letters under 8.2 for information. They are simply that, unless somebody's got a comment they'd like to make about one of the documents. Okay, seeing none, we'll move on to item 9, which is reports. So reports from legal entities, 9.1. And I will again just have folks put up their hand if they want to speak about one of those items. So Councillor Gerke, you're first on the docket.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I'll do this very quickly. I just want to say thank you to the Western Counties Regional Library for their assistance to NSHA with providing rapid tests to the community. They have come and they are gone. There's a number of things in the works there. They are working very hard to maintain their status. You'll hear some things coming in the future. There's been a change in logo and branding, which is very exciting. While I'm on here, Yarmouth and Acadian Shores, we just had a meeting, just to let you know they're financially, they are in good shape. We discussed the film industry, and we've got a meeting coming up with a small committee to see how we can get the Wren possibly involved in promotion of the area. One of the things that had come out in the past that was important for people to register their properties on Starring Your Property. The more we have on there that people have available, the more the film industry sees that we have things or places here that they can use for the film industry. So that would be really helpful. It was also suggested actually by Bill Curry, thanks to him, that we possibly partner with Bay Ferries to create a bumper sticker to say that you have traveled on the CAT. That'll happen after the summer. So they're working, they are going to have a discussion with Bay Ferries with regards to that. So the rest of the province, Atlantic provinces can see how many people are actually using it once the business starts up again. Because we know that there are other parts of the province that think that it's not good value for your money, but in actual fact, it's very good value for what it leaves behind in the province. Let's see, 55 games again. I think I've mentioned that there were 700 plus rooms booked in levy facilities, so that was really successful. And right now, the TMAC conference is a big focus, and registration starts soon. And for promotion purposes, YASTA is using influencers who they hire to promote things in our community. And the last one for me is the Western Regional Enterprise Network Liaison and Oversight Committee. And we are due to have a meeting. There was supposed to be one in December, but because of change in staff, that didn't occur. And so we're hoping that can get back on track soon. Done.
Thank you, Councillor Gerke. It was very concise. Okay, other people, other councillors who want to speak to 9.1 legal entities. Okay, there being none, we'll move on to 9.2. 9.2 advisory. Councillor Hurlbert.
Thank you very much, Mr. Chair. I want to thank staff for including in the agenda and the minutes from as many past meetings as we can get from those. I think that, you know, for those of us who are new and, you know, want to be, you know, involved and kind of kept up to speed, you know, it was easy for me to skim through those. Did I read them all in depth? No, but I was able to skim through and kind of get the gist and, you know, see if there was places I need to ask questions or kind of, you know, follow up with. So thank you very much for that. Accessibility Advisory Committee, we have a special committee of the whole meeting next week with council to present our draft accessibility advisory plan that has to be to the province by April 1st. So I'm looking forward to having that discussion with you next week. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Hurlbert. And additional reports that people want to give from, and I know that we do have a lot of the docs attached. So 9.2 advisor, any further comment? Councillor Hurlbert? Oh, okay, no. the hand function, just to let everybody know, is tough because you have to turn it on and off, but that's a common thing. Any additional comments from council? Okay, seeing none, we'll move on to 9.3 ad hoc. Yes, Councillor Hurlbert, you have the floor.
Thank you. I'm not sure if this is the proper place. Just inquiring if we could get some, and I'm not sure if we need a motion or just consensus to get some data from Mariners on Main as to how their membership is going, you know, some feedback or, you know, some kind of report to, you know, for the public and us to tell us how we're doing. Does that make sense?
Yes, it does, and I think that through me from you to the CEO, I think the CEO will have her comment, but I'm assuming that you could get those numbers for us to share with council.
Yeah. So I know that's a common question. It's not the first time I've heard it. So there have been conversations around that data. It might be useful if there was a motion made to request it specifically from the Mariners Center Management Authority.
Okay, Councillor Hurlbert.
Can I do that now?
Certainly, yes.
I would like to make a motion that we ask staff to request data from the Mariners on Main. Is that good enough? I feel
We'll do
stumbling through my words there.
It's fine. The intent's clear. Councillor Cushing seconds the motion. Any additional conversation? Councillor Hilton?
To get that information, now I'm stumbling over my words, but I didn't know maybe if it would be worth having Durham, you know, present. Are we still digital for the February meeting? Maybe he could join us and give us a rundown on how we think things are going and what maybe he could see as where we're headed, kind of thing. I've never really chatted with him as someone that's not on either of those committees, so it might be an interesting way for the rest of council to get that information.
Okay, so
maybe the request for data can be in the form of a presentation, if that's okay with Councillor Hurlbert.
that's okay by the mover and seconder?
Fine with me.
Yeah. Okay, fine with fine with Councillor Cushing as well. So yeah, that's understood that that will be in the form of a presentation to council like that committee at all. So there's being no further conversation on it. All those in favor? All those opposed? Motion carried. Thank you, council. And any other from the ad hoc? Any other comments from ad hoc? Yes, Councillor Durkee.
I don't have a presentation or information, but I would like to ask the question is if we've heard anything from other levels of government with regards to our Mariner Center expansion proposal.
Yeah, and I'm on the committee, and we talked about some of those items in camera, but there's nothing official that's come from the other levels of government to this point.
Thank you.
Yeah, you're welcome. Additional comments or questions from ad hoc 9.3 from council? Okay, We'll move on to the warden's report. The warden's report circulated, and again, unfortunately, our warden couldn't be here tonight due to the untimely passing of his dad. And we all feel for him. So it's there for your perusal. Any questions? Actually, I guess the warden's not here this evening, so it will be there for information and follow up at a future council meeting if you wish. 11, item 11, in camera. So I'll look for a motion to go in camera. Councillor Hilton, seconded by Councillor Allen. All those in favor signify by saying aye. And we'll just look to Ms. Porter to stop the recording and okay, thank you everybody, and welcome back to our regularly scheduled council meeting. We're just in camera for a bit. Item 12, in camera recommendations. Some recommendations from in camera. Yes, Councillor Hilton.
I'd like to make a motion that we appoint Linda Vickery as a citizen rep to the Accessory Advisory Committee.
Okay, we have a mover. Do we have a seconder? Councillor Hurlbert, seconds. All those in favor signify by saying aye. All those opposed? Motion carried. Thank you very much. Additional in-camera recommendations. Councillor Hilton.
I'll make a motion that we appoint Patty Simpson to the Planning Advisory Committee as a citizen rep.
For,
Well, I think under the policy, it's normally 2 years. I was just going to say 3 for Warner, but if you'd like to put 2 years in, that would be fine as well.
Certainly for 2 years, yes. Okay, the motion's on the floor. We have a seconder. Councillor Allen, seconds. Any questions about that? Okay, all those in favor signify by saying aye. All those opposed? Motion carried. Thank you. And Councillor Hilton.
Yeah, I'll make another motion to appoint Warner Camo as a citizen rep to the Planning Advisory Committee for a term of 3 years.
Okay, we have a mover. Do we have a seconder? Patty Durkee, Councillor Durkee, seconds. All those in favor signify by saying aye. All those opposed? Motion carried. And I believe that does conclude the business for this evening. A motion to adjourn, please. Yeah, Sherry Hurlbert, Councillor Hurlbert, and Councillor Cushion, seconds. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Motion carried. Thank you, everybody. It was a great meeting. Okay.